August 2008. I read a lot of books, and we're going to jump right in. The first book that I read in August of 2008 was Baby Moll, Moll, by John Ferris. Now, I know John Ferris as a horror writer. Wrote The Fury, which is one of my favorite, was turned into one of my favorite Brian De Palma movies. But apparently he wrote crime too, and I read some of it because this was a hard case crime book, and our main character is Charlie Mallory. He's retired from the Florida mob, and it's been 6 years. He's got, I believe, like a bait shop, and excuse me, I think he's engaged, but someone is trying to kill his old boss, and so he's pulled back in. It's hard case crime from a horror writer. Someone I think of as primarily a horror writer. Baby Moll by John Ferris. Next up, The Jigsaw Man by Gord Rollo. A man who, oh look, it's signed, because I met him at Context, and Gene O'Neill gave Gord some money to take a bunch of us to lunch. And great to finally meet you in Columbus, is what it says. So, The Jigsaw Man, what would you be willing to do for $2 million? Michael Fox answered that question for himself, the hard way. He was just about to commit suicide when a stranger approached him and offered him $2 million in cold, hard cash. All he wanted in return was Fox's right arm. But that's only the beginning. The mysterious surgeon's plans go far, far beyond one simple limb. And Fox is not his only donor. Once Fox is trapped behind the operating room doors, he discovers there is no escape from the madness. As bit by bloody bit, his body is taken from him and gradually replaced. Good stuff. Good start from Gord Rollo. And this, of course, is a leisure book. So, The Jigsaw Man by Gord Rollo. Now, next up we have Midlisters by Keelan Patrick Burke. And this, our main character is Jason Tennant. He writes violent horror novels, and he is a midlister. He's never risen past that sort of designation. Has not become a bestseller. He doesn't enjoy the bestseller lifestyle. And there's another guy named Kent Gray who writes, it says in the description, sex-fi. So I assume that's like softcore science fiction. Kind of like, I have some books over there that are like adult science fiction. And Kent Gray is a bestseller. He's rich, famous, handsome. And Jason Tennant is very jealous of Kent Gray. Well, they're going to meet at a convention. I believe it's in Baltimore. And things are going to happen. So that's Midlisters by Keelan Patrick Burke. Next up, we have Disposal by Jeff Strand. This is a signed and numbered limited edition from Biting Dog Publications. And Midlisters was a signed numbered hardback from Biting Dog Publications. And in Disposal here, it says, meet Frank, a truly reprehensible human being, an egotistical, sexist, morally vacant scumbag who gets off on committing armed robbery, the kind of creep whose smirk you want to rub off with razor blade laced sandpaper. But when he robs Gretchen at gunpoint, he'll get a lot more than $12 in her cash register. She makes him an offer he can't refuse. Kill her husband in exchange for sex. The problem is that her husband is hard to kill. Really hard to kill. Like the bastard just won't freaking die. Lots of bad and occasionally disgusting things happen. And this limited edition contains 10 extremely unpleasant and mean-spirited forewords. I'm not going to name all the people that have written a foreword for this. So it's Jeff Strand. It's the usual type of Jeff Strand, I think, comedy of errors, horror story. Disposal, Jeff Strand. And then I read Monkey Love by John Paul Allen, which was a hardcover limited edition from Biting Dog Press. And in Monkey Love, we have Professor Sandra Ricks, and her husband has been killed in a terrorist bombing, I believe it is. She's thrown herself into her work in Africa, and 3 years later, she believes that her husband has come back. And the book is called Monkey Love. So, the reason I sort of emphasized certain things is that Midlisters, Disposal, Monkey Love all have, I believe it's the exact same cover image, just different titles and authors, obviously. This was a set of 3 books from Biting Dog Press. I had all 3 books, but, sometimes you got to pay the bills, and so 2 of those books ended up getting sold. And obviously, Disposal is the only one I have left. But I didn't even realize till I looked these up to see what the other 2 were about, that they were all part of this set. I'd completely forgotten. Let's see. So after Monkey Love, we have Crooked Little Vein by Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis, comic book writer, very popular comic book writer, got into some trouble for grooming, apparently, allegedly. There was a lot of grooming going on in Warren Ellis's life, but he also wrote prose fiction. Crooked Little Vein is the only one that I read of his prose, and I very, very much enjoyed it. And it's a down on his luck, hard case, private investigator named Michael McGill, and he is hired to find the real Constitution of the United States. Apparently, the Founding Fathers wrote the sort of public Constitution, and then there was a second Constitution that's only supposed to come out in the worst times of trouble for the country. We could use that right now. And at the time of the book, that's what the American government thinks is going on. It's, the country's falling apart. They need this secret constitution. They hire Michael McGill to find it. Warren Ellis, very, would it be political satire, I think, in a lot of his writing. But a very, very good book. So this is, I think, a separate the art from the artist if you choose to. I only have a couple of things still in my possession that were written by Warren Ellis. After that, we have Leather Maiden by Joe R. Lansdale. I don't actually have a copy of it at this time. But what we have is Cason, C-A-S-O-N, Cason Statler, who has come back from war, I believe, and he's down on his luck, kind of stalking his ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, stalking his ex, gets a job at a newspaper, finds a cold case, and decides he's going to solve this cold case. And it's just classic Joe Lansdale crime thriller with great characters and, twists and turns and all sorts of stuff going on. Leather Maiden by Joe R. Lansdale. Then we have the last book that I have to show you, and the first full novel solo written by this author that I read, and this is Succulent Prey by Wrath James White. And this is actually a numbered copy, signed and numbered. Didn't realize it. Number 66. One more 6, and that would have been pretty nice. But there are only 300 of these paperbacks, so they couldn't have gone to 666. And this is from Bloodletting Press. I had read The Teratologist which was co-written by Edward Lee and Rath James White. I bought it because it was an Edward Lee book. After I read it, I was like, I got to find this Rath James White guy and his stuff. And so this is the first thing that I found and I read. And this says, back cover copy again, could serial killers be the victims of a communicable disease? Could it be the same virus that spawned the vampire and werewolf legends? Could it be cured? 15 years ago, Joseph Miles was attacked by a serial child murderer with an appetite for human blood. He was the only victim to have escaped alive. Now he is a tall, handsome, intelligent, well-built psychology student who is slowly turning into a murderer. He believes that the man who attacked him as a child passed a virus onto him that is changing him into a serial killer, and if he doesn't find a cure, the woman he loves will soon become his next victim, the woman who is now locked up in his apartment, chained to his bed. Fast-paced, disturbingly erotic, hardcore horror at its most extreme. A fantastic book, a great introduction to Rath James White. There is a sequel that I've owned since it came out, and I have not read it, but a lot of interesting things going on in Succulent Prey by Rath James White. But let's keep going, because there's much more. Next up, Little Creatures by Michael McCarty and special guests. That's what it says on the cover. And I could not find a single thing about this online. I do not remember what it's about. I assume it's a short story collection. And it's got a cool cover. I remember the cover, but I could not find a description of the book anywhere. And, I spent, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes looking in all the usual places, and couldn't spend more time than that. So, Little Creatures by Michael McCarty and special guests, whatever that may be. After that, The Bitch Fight by Michael A. Arnzen. And this is going to be a difficult book to talk about. It's a great book. It's about a veterinarian who is forced to perform medical duties for something like a dog fight. Think Michael Vick, dog fights. But that's not quite what's going on, and I can't say anything because it would spoil the book, but it is absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it. I think it's just a novella. It's very short, if I remember correctly. The Bitch Fight by Michael A. Arnzen. If you're into crazy, wild horror, try to find a copy. And I think looking at all of this stuff, you can see the influence that Horror Mall had with me picking up all of this set of 3 limited editions and these little things like Bitch Fight and Little Creatures by authors that I never would have found otherwise. The forums were great. There were lots of links, people talking about the books that they had coming out, and I was just finding and reading a lot of fantastic stuff, and apparently a book that left no lasting impression. But that's not all. Next up, we have Luster by Shane Ryan Staley, and this is just a book of short stories by Shane Ryan Staley that I believe are mostly like, lust, sex, that kind of stuff. But there is gore, because they are, I think, all horror stories. There are some comedy horror stories, erotic horror stories, but I think sort of the main theme of all of the stories might be sex and lust and that kind of thing. But that's Luster by Shane Ryan Staley, who I'm going to have to look up Shane Ryan Staley and see what happened to that guy, because I don't want to say anything. I think there's things, but I don't want to get sued into oblivion by saying something that's completely untrue. Next up, Dead Santa and Other Heartwarming Christmas Tales by Shane Ryan Staley. And this is just 4 Christmas-themed horror stories. And again, Shane Ryan Staley, someone I never would have I don't think I ever would have come across or read anything from if it wasn't for Horror Mall and the forums and all of that. But Dead Santa and Other Heartwarming Christmas Tales, Shane Ryan Staley, for Christmas horror stories. Then we have Thrust by Tom Piccirilli. And this, our main character's name is Chase. He's a performance poet with mental issues. He has been hospitalized before. And in the middle of a performance, he's not in the hospital now, in the middle of a performance, he sees whom he believes to be a woman that he knew that died in the hospital, in the mental hospital, and maybe was murdered. So he's got to figure out what the hell's going on. Is he just hallucinating? Is she really there? Did she fake her own death? Or is he seeing a ghost? Or is it just in his head? Thrust, Tom Piccirilli. This may have been a limited edition. I don't recall. The penultimate book, finally, the penultimate book for August of 2008. Bestial, Werewolf Apocalypse by William D. Carl. This is a story that takes place in Cincinnati, and basically, on the full moon, for some reason, this particular full moon, everybody but 4 people in Cincinnati turn into werewolves. And the 4 people who don't, I think everybody but these 4 people, these are our 4 main characters, and they stay human. We have a thief, a bank teller, a middle-aged housewife, and a teenage runaway. They stay human. They're trying to survive a night where everybody else is werewolves. And then the next day, a lot of the people that had turned into werewolves and now have become human again have basically gone insane because of what they did when they were werewolves. And the full moon is coming again. It's one of those, 3 nights in a row things. And our 4 heroes have to figure out what the hell's going on and how they're going to survive and can they stop it, whatever it is. Bestial, Werewolf Apocalypse, William D. Carl. And the final book that I read in August of 2008 is Bust by Ken Bruin and Jason Starr. We started with a hard case crime book. We're ending with a hard case crime book. And this is about Max Fisher, who's pretty much a douchebag, and he hires a psycho killer to kill his wife so he can go off and marry his mistress or whatever. Things are not going to go as planned. Don't remember too much about this detail-wise. Definitely not my favorite of the hard case crime books, but I don't think the worst of the hard case crime books I've ever read. Bust, Ken Bruin, and Jason Starr. That is everything that I read in August of 2008. That looks like it is 15 books, if my math is correct. Had a lot going on today. I have not thought of a question, so we'll go very generic. Do any of these sound interesting to you? Have you read any of these? And if so, what did you think? All of that stuff. Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Blue Sky in the description below. And that's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.